Columbia College Chicago and the Chicago television community. Now, therefore, I, Richard M. Daley, Mayor of the City of Chicago, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, March 15th, 2000, to be Edward L. Morris Day in Chicago and encourage all Chicagoans
television department screening.
Yeah, they're screaming. I'm going to say that. The people screaming are from the television department. The mayor concludes, he asks all Chicagoans to recognize the many professional, civic, and humanitarian contributions of Edward L. Morris. Once again, Ed, thank you for all you've done to Columbia College and all you have done for the city of Chicago. Thank you.
My God, I don't know where to begin. I mean, I know this, that I don't want to keep you too long because I'm sure it's hungry out by now. I had a series of remarks all planned, and they sort of got knocked into a cocked hat by some of the things that were said. What Jim said when he was talking about our first encounter was kind of interesting to me because I'd forgotten all about the producer until Jim mentioned it, and I forgot the circumstances, and I didn't even know I don't remember my state of mind. The only thing I remember was that Jim did a great show when he came back, and one of the great things is to have a friend like Jim who would come all the way from Scottsdale to say the words that he said tonight. And I'm very grateful for that. I just want to also say that I've known Bob Surratt for 15 or 20 years, and I knew he was in the radio business, and he did used to come by, and he'd point at the window and say, "Can you come in? Can I come in?" And I'd signal for him to come in. But I want to tell you that in all this time, Bob Surratt's appearance has never changed. Now, I want to tell you why he looks the same as he did 20 years ago. I'm his picture of Dorian Gray. And I just escaped from the attic yesterday, and this was our secret until now. So that's the real McCoy. And by the way, I resent everybody saying I'm a curmudgeon. Who the hell says I'm a curmudgeon? I want to thank all of you for honoring Marsha and me by your presence here tonight and for your generosity. This is really all about Columbia and our students, after all. It's ironic. Marsha's my fourth wife, and I had to wait until tonight for her to stab me in the back. But that's okay. I mean, she.
So is there going to be a fifth now?
No, I'm too old for that. I don't feel that my work requires a tribute, although I'm grateful for this wonderful party. The 16 or 17 years I spent at Columbia have been the happiest in my life, and it's a wonderful way to cap a career, giving back to young people some of what you've learned and what you have to give. Some of the most important friendships of my life have begun here, and I cannot imagine being anyplace else. I thought I'd start by quoting somebody else's words, but it seems to me, although other words will come into play later, that what folks want to hear about, the transition from being a television manager and a producer, or a producer and then a manager, is truer. I've lived in a world of ideas since I was 7 years old, and my mother gave me a volume of Sherlock Holmes by A. Conan Doyle. For a long time, I buried myself in books, and then in sports and music and politics crept in, and I grew older, and then I found out that there was a real world out there, and it was really those real people that my life had spun out before me. I went to the war, and when I came back, everything was changing rapidly. I went back to the university to get a master's degree, and I lived with a very dear friend of mine, a fellow by the name of Tom, I can't even remember his last name anymore, but introduced Tom to his future wife, who was also a friend of mine. His name was Tom Mitchell. So I introduced Tom to Joy, and he promptly went crazy and married her, and they moved to France, which made me even more envious. And so I quit school and took a job in Chicago, which was no substitute for Paris, but which has been my home for over 50 years. I discovered real friendships, and one of the first of these was with Mike Alexandrov. Mike and I got to know each other through a veterans organization, which shall remain nameless for the moment. And I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for that meeting with Mike. Mike and I became friends immediately, and our friendship, as Mike has said, has prospered over the years. I got into television in 1958 through a lucky happenstance, and that's when I met Irving Harris, and he was my boss and my friend all that time, and he helped me make a career which now, in all its twists and turns, has lasted for more than 40 years. I won't get into all the details or you would become terminally bored, and the ruminations of an old geezer would freeze your blood, and I know your stomach is already starving. I just want to say one thing. If it weren't for the woman who was standing beside me, I would not have come this far. I would likely have foundered long ago, and so my messages of gratitude, of thanks for loving friends, and appreciation for the opportunities that life has given me, and it ain't over yet. I will quote you Edward Fitzgerald in the guise of Omar Khayyam, who wrote, "Come fill the cup, and in the fires of spring, the winter garment of repentance fling. For the bird of time has but a little way to fly, and lo, the bird is on the wing." I want to say some thanks. I want to thank particularly Irving and Joan for agreeing to being the honorary chairs of this fair. And I can't tell you how much I'm grateful to Nick Aronson, who's also been a friend for 40 years, and one of my newer friends, Diana Borey, with whom I've had the pleasure to work in the Television Academy, for being the chairs and helping put this event together. I want to say special thanks to Mike Niederman and Luke Palermo for the wonderful, if spurious, version of my career. I also want to thank Woody White, the head of development, and Carol Bryant, the head of public relations, who I never got this much publicity in all the 40 years before that Carol got for me in the last 2 weeks. And a special, and also thanks to Catherine Wales, who's been instrumental in putting this thing together. But especially a load of blessings to Jillian Moore, without whom we would have been in a clock tower somewhere, or one of the group of exhibits here at the Historical Society, and you could add another old antique to the other group. Thornton Wilder said in The Bridge of San Luis Rey, "Love will have been enough. All of those impulses of love return to the love that made them. Even memory is not necessary for love. There's a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love, the only survival, the only meaning." And I'm grateful to all of you for being here. I think that this is just the most overwhelming experience of my life, and I thank you so much. I would very much like to ask the two young ladies who are the current recipients of our scholarship to come on stage. I'd like to introduce you to them. These two young ladies are so perfect that we couldn't decide between them, so we decided to give two scholarships instead of one. And I want you to meet them, and I want to congratulate them on being the recipients of the scholarship for this year. This is Kate Reensma. And this is Aaron Lopez. And the most significant thing of all is that they were so close that there was no way to decide which one. And I want to also point out to you that Marsha and I do not participate in selecting the award winners. They're selected by the Academy, by the faculty of the Columbia College Television Department. So we don't. All we do is look at them and endorse them. And I want to tell you, I haven't had Kate in the class, but I had Erin, and she's really terrific. So, and I'm sure Kate is equally terrific because she's got the same kind of grades and the same kind of background. So I wanted to introduce these two girls to you, and I want to congratulate them. I don't know whether Marsha wants to say anything, but I'm not going to let her. She said enough on the tape. You want to say something? She said, let's go to dinner.
I'm shy.
Thank you. Hey, I didn't even see you.
Thanks, Ed, for inviting me to be a part of this. It was a real treat for me. Let's go to the atrium and have dinner now. Thank you all.
I am honored to be here this evening, celebrating the accomplishments of a man who has in one way or another touched each of our lives. I'm sure we can all think of the moment when we were touched and infused with his vision.
The governor and the legislature know that you will not tolerate further damage to our young and that you would like school funds removed from politics. Presentation of this award. Now, as a teacher of television at Columbia College, I will, as long as I'm able, train a new generation of the creative craft of television to meet the challenges of the bright future which lies ahead for all of us.
Hello, Columbia. I'm James Martinez. For your big show, CCEN. I know I look different in a suit, but hey, it's a tribute to Ed Morris, a great man that's done many great things for Chicago television and our school, Columbia College. But don't take my word for it. Let's go see what other people have to say.
Ed's a thinker, an innovator, a creator, and a really hard worker. And he loves television, and he loves the business. We're only very fortunate at Columbia that he chose to do sort of the last part of his career with us.
And he has been a first-rate chairman of the television department at Columbia College.
And he's always been there for a lot of people, I know that, and especially for me. And I love Ed very much. He's wonderful.
Out of all the friends that I've ever known, I've never known anybody like you. I don't expect I'm going to meet anybody like you. You to me are a giant. You are to me the kind of person who I always would have dreamed I would meet someday in my life.
What can you say that was your thrive in all your years that you've been in television and everywhere you've worked at?
Well, it's believing in people that really counts, and I try to do that, and I've always believed that people were more important than anything.
You will never be forgotten. Your legacy will live on in all of us and be reflected in our accomplishments within the television industry.